Hello, Biblionauts. I've arrived, and it's been a long, arduous hike. I was completely wet. I was just, this moment when you think, oh shit, I might not even make it, because it was like, it said, I looked at the forecast, and this is one thing, when you do something like this, you should always assume that the worst is gonna happen, unless you have unless it's in the middle of summer, and you have a forecast that tells you that the weather is gonna be perfect for 3 weeks, which then it would be unreasonable to expect a storm. But if you are like playing with chances and trying to sort of like, oh, I have a window of 4 hours, assume that those 4 hours, that window won't exist. Because sometimes it happens, and if you're not ready or you maybe wasn't up for that task, you might put yourself in a situation. I definitely have put myself in many situations in the past that you might not want to. In this case, I was welcoming the wind and the rain and everything, which is not to say that it was very hard to get here. But this is a wonderful mountain hut. This is a wonderful cabin that they have here. It's not even a cabin. This is a proper hut. This is more than I could need. It has windows. It has a fireplace. It has a door, walls, and a roof, and a place to an elevated surface to sleep on, which is very important because most of your body heat lives through the floor, basically through the ground. For those of you who might be new to the channel, which I don't think so, because it's not like this channel is like massive or anything, but I've been sort of saying the past few weeks and months that I was gonna disappear during the winter, and this is what it looks like. Of course, I'm making this video, and I will try to make a couple more videos. I maybe even make a video about sort of like survival tips and things that I have as documenting myself in the past. I have seen certain things not being said in YouTube, and I might think that they are useful. But I mean, this is primarily a books channel and a book reviewing channel, so that's not reviewing, but talking impressions. So yeah, that's what you should expect me to do most. However, I'm not gonna like, as I talk about the stories on this book, on this live, on this channel that I read. There is another story in the background, and that's the story of my life, and I related to it. At the end of the day, I don't prepare my reviews. I don't have a script. I don't do any editing. So what you're left with is my own impressions and my own capacity to relate to those stories. Of course, a lot of hermeneutic stuff, like I actually sit down and read and try to get the meaning that the text is trying to convey. But this every now and then you might get one or other video that is not about books. That's just saying that because I could make I had a channel about diving in the past. I had a channel about like other things, but none of those things, like they are all sort of compartments of the whole that I am, and I feel like dividing them in separate channels feels very artificial. It doesn't work with me. So I'm just gonna be talking about what I feel like talking each time, and I mean, this wasn't meant to be a reflection on the channel or anything like that, but that's precisely what I'm trying to get at. That I don't have a plan when I come and I put this camera. I just feel like talking to my imaginary booktube friends, as and that's what I'm doing. I've arrived, as I said. The elements did not welcome me, although in a sense, yes, because it's really nice to feel the wind and the just nature being alive. What I hate the most is when you have like an overcast sky, everything is sort of like white. You cannot see through the clouds, but they are also just not dark or anything. It's not like it's gonna rain. It's like everything is sort of like under a white light that it looks like an underground parking light. And there's no wind, there's no rain, there's nothing, but there's no good weather either. You don't see any sun. That is the weather that I hate the most, which is very characteristic of the center of England in general. Especially areas that are further from the coast. when you're near the coast, the weather is sort of like, or up in the mountains, it's much more intense. It's much more interactive and changing, and I like that a lot. So for me, this still was really nice. Although the wind was blowing against me for most of the time, now it's gone much calmer. The wind. It's still raining though. I'm just gonna show you because you have a window behind. That's my lighting. That is kind of like what I can see. This is pretty much how it's all around. It's a nice little valley on the heart of the Galloway forest, and I mean forest. We'll talk about that, but I don't know that I would call this a forest, but I will leave that for another video. All I wanted to say is that I made a book review or recommendation for We from, I already forgot the name of the author, is Yevgeny something else. And I after my second reading of that book, in order to get rid of it and not having to carry it all the way to this potty, and I did. And the way I got rid of it, as I normally do when I'm traveling, is I just found someone who gave me a feeling that they would read the book, and this was the person with whom I was staying on her house the night right before coming here, and she was just a really nice lady, and I gave her the book with not really expecting. I no longer expect anyone to read. I know that is a rarity, and I'm not as pessimist as other people, but I do know that, you know, reading, especially reading for the sake of it, reading as a practice in itself, not to extract something else, which is something we could talk about. But there's two ways of approaching any discipline: as a means to an end, or as an end in itself, right? There's a really nice philosophy book, which I might at some point do a read along for, called After Virtue by Alasdair MacIntyre, and he talks a lot about this, with explaining how, like, for example, with chess, right? This is one of my favorite books of philosophy, by the way. How with when you are playing chess, right? If you want to teach someone to play chess, the only way that they're actually going to be playing chess rather than a different game is if what they are trying to achieve is winning within the game, within the rules of the game. If, for example, you introduce something like a prize, and suddenly the motive for you to play chess from the beginning, from the very first day that you start playing chess, is to get money, for example, let's say £100. Then if you look away, you know, of course, within chess masters, it's not possible to do this because they would know immediately that you change a piece. But you would cheat. Like, if the point is that in any game, if you teach someone to play it in order to get something from outside the game that is not contained within the discipline, then they have no reason to appreciate the discipline for what it is, and the value that it has to offer. And most disciplines have, like, the capacity to give you something which is a skill, a skill, a perspective, a framework, but something within the discipline, something that can be carried around inside you, not some material good of whatever kind. I always thought that was a really good analogy to refer to that. When someone is cheating at any game, they stop playing that game, they're playing a different game. That's my point. And this came because when it comes to reading, I feel like a lot of people only read for informative purposes or for something that has nothing to do with reading, one way or another. And I feel like although they are still reading, they are no longer doing reading. They are no longer within sort of like what reading is. You cannot appreciate what reading is if you are not doing it for the sake of reading because you want to read, but you are doing reading because you want to learn this one thing, and once you know that thing, you won't read again, or because you want someone to look at you while you're reading, or whatever. It's the same with anything else. Like that's my reason, my kind of dislike of, for example, gyms is the same. Like when people is trying to be fit because they want to look a certain way in order to fit in society or something like that. um, they are not really doing a sport. They are not really, even if they are doing fitness, it's not for the sake of fitness, right? It's not even, they are not even trying to cultivate like a certain care for the body or anything like that. They are trying to get something that has nothing to do with it, which necessarily alienates them from the true value of that practice. So whenever I meet a reader rather than someone who reads, I can tell immediately because of the way they react and everything, and this was the case. It was really, really nice. I was having breakfast and I offered her before coming here this morning, and I offered her the book, and I told her a little bit about it, and she got so excited. Like, she took it and started, like, that's another way you can tell when someone is a reader, like the way they handle a book, and she opened it and started just like going through it, super excited, like a child, and she was a very old lady. And then she started talking about her favorite books, and I started talking to her about the books that I had been reading and I was planning to read, and she knew every single one of them. She was a proper reader, and she started telling me about like how I should read like the novels of E.M. Forster, this like a very long saga, the Situation novels, something like that. I didn't know it, but also she recommended me reading Ender's Game, which is one of her favorite novels, with science fiction. And I mean, like, Ender's Game is all over BookTube, so you would probably know which book that is. And yeah, I mean, that's all I wanted to say. I feel like, there is a couple of challenges going on in BookTube which have to do with the like ceasing to accumulate books for the sake of it, which is another way in which you can get out of what reading is, of like stop seeing reading as a practice in itself, and suddenly like accumulating books has nothing to do with reading anymore. When you start having too many books, if you have books you are not going to read, you are basically hoarding, which is a completely different thing, for the sake of it, for not for reading. And that book that you have could not only be like a great experience for someone else rather than waste that will be disposed of once you die, but also it could give you a really nice anecdote if you find a way to hand it over to someone who deserves it. Or you can create an anecdote for someone else. One says, this is not going to be the first time that when I leave a hut like this, I leave a book inside with some notes and a letter and everything, and for someone to come here and find that book. And that has happened to me a few times, of finding a book full of notes and just reading the book and the notes. And every single time, the sense of discovery, the enjoyment is exponential. You don't forget that. That can be the highlight in someone's day, week, month, who knows. So I just wanted to sort of like encourage everyone. I don't know, this could even be, like some sort of BookTube challenge thing or whatever, but I just wanted to say that give books away. Like, if you have a book even if you have a book that you read and that you have read and you just have that book, if you're not going to reread it, if you don't even like remember it, if you just come and look at yourself and there's a book, oh shit, I have that book and didn't even know I have it, I'm not gonna open it, it's just there. Just take that book, go for a walk, and just give it to a random stranger. If you are shy, write a note and leave it somewhere where you know someone will find it. You don't have to write a note, but it's also nice when they also know that book has been left there on purpose rather than someone forgetting it. So that's kind of like what I wanted to say. I am here, I am safe, wet. There is no internet, so this video will come probably mixed up with all the other videos that I pre-recorded at some point, whenever I find a high mountain to get to where internet is available or anything like that, or data or anything. But or when I need to go for more food. I have a lot of food. I'm probably gonna stay here for a week unless someone not nice happens to come. But my experience with mountain huts has always been really nice. Both these are generally the people that gets to these places tends to be nice, except for a couple of exceptions. And And yeah, I mean, like last time I was in Scotland, I even met another person. I also gave him a book. He was a mathematician that had been living, moving from Bothy to Bothy his whole life, except for the winters. During the winters, he slept in a boat. A really interesting person. So yeah, I mean, get out there with a couple of books that you don't read or that you have read and won't read again, and just give them to someone and talk about it. If you do it, make a video and please mention me, because I would love to hear that someone gave a book to someone else, and how was the reaction. If you can do it in person, that'd be amazing. But if you just go to like a bus stop or something and just leave the book there with some note, make a video about that as well, and just let me know what you said, what you told the stranger, which book did you choose, why did you choose that book to give away rather than another one. And yeah, I just think it's a nice thing to do. And I think that's gonna be all for today. I need to manage to light a fire before the light goes out, because I don't know how cold the night is gonna be, but it's probably gonna be on the minus, although it's raining. When it rains, it's not so cold. But I am wet, I'm still wet. I don't have many clothes that are still dry. I need to dry them, and there's not much good inside here. So tomorrow I'll probably have to deal with that. Luckily enough, I brought an axe, as you should always bring an axe to a place like this. But yeah, I'll probably talk about that in some other video that will have nothing to do with books, but a lot to do with living. Have a nice day. I'll see you on the other side. Bye, Booktube.